What if I told you that most US football players lose the game before the first snap? Not because they're slow, weak, or lazy, but because of 7 invisible habits quietly lowering their football IQ every single week. See, most players in America train like machines, chasing strength, speed, and highlight moments. But they forget that football is a thinking man's game. You can't outrun confusion. You can't outlift bad decisions. You can spend hours grinding in the gym and still fall behind a player who knows how to read a defense, time his movements, and control his emotions when everything's on the line. That's what separates players who play football from those who understand football. So, if you're serious about unlocking your full potential, not just playing harder but smarter, hit that like button and subscribe to Football Mindset IQ. Because in this video, we're exposing the 7 silent mistakes that quietly hold back US players who don't even realize what they're doing wrong until it's too late. Meet Miles Reed, a 17-year-old wide receiver from Dayton, Ohio. He's the kind of player every coach notices during warm-ups. Lean build, explosive acceleration, hands that make catches look effortless. His highlight reel? Pure fire. His work ethic? Unmatched. He's the first to arrive at practice, the last to leave, and the one teammates call the grinder. But here's the truth no one's told him. Hustle alone isn't his problem. Week after week, Miles dominates in practice but disappears under the Friday night lights. He'll nail every drill, but come game time, he hesitates when the defense shifts. He reacts a second too late. He runs the right route at the wrong time. And every game ends with the same feeling, I worked harder than everyone, so why am I still one step behind? See, Miles isn't lazy or untalented, far from it. What's holding him back is invisible. It's his football mind, how he reads the game, how he processes chaos, how he adapts under pressure. He's focused on building muscle but not awareness, training for power but not perception. And that silent gap between talent and understanding is what's keeping him from the scholarship offers he dreams about. But Miles's story isn't unique. It's the story of thousands of US players chasing greatness without realizing they're trapped by the same 7 hidden mistakes. Mistakes that don't just cost games, they cost futures. So today, we're pulling back the curtain. Let's break them down, one by one. Mistake 1. Thinking talent alone wins games. At first glance, Miles Reed looks like the prototype of a future college star. He's got that natural swagger, the kind that makes defenders nervous before the snap. All through middle school and early high school, his raw ability carried him. No complex strategies, no deep reads, no advanced game sense, just pure athletic dominance. He could slice through defenses, leap over corners, and score almost effortlessly. Coaches called him a natural. And that, right there, was the beginning of his quiet downfall. Because when the competition leveled up, when Miles started facing teams that studied film, disguised coverage, and used formations to bait him, something strange happened. The field that once felt wide open suddenly felt crowded. The game slowed down for everyone else, but for him, it got faster. His instincts, once enough to win, became unreliable. His athleticism still turned heads, but his decisions started raising eyebrows. Here's the brutal truth every US player needs to hear. Talent opens doors, but football IQ keeps you in the room. In today's game, athleticism gets you noticed, but understanding the why behind every movement, every read, and every adjustment, that's what keeps you relevant. Across the country, recruiters are shifting their focus. They're no longer just looking for the strongest or fastest athletes. They're looking for thinkers. Players who understand leverage, who anticipate plays, who know how to adapt when the script flips. The days of just run your route are over. Now, it's about reading the game while you play it. For Miles, the realization came too late in his junior year. Defenders who used to chase him now predicted him. Linebackers jumped routes he hadn't even finished running. And every Friday night became a painful reminder. You can't outmuscle a player who's already 3 steps ahead mentally. So ask yourself, have you ever been outplayed by someone who wasn't faster, stronger, or even as skilled as you, but they just seemed to know what was coming? Drop your story below, because you're not alone. The difference between good and great isn't genetics, it's awareness. Miles learned that lesson the hard way. But if you're watching this now, you've got the chance to fix it before it costs you. Because the next mistake? It happens in the blink of an eye, and it's quietly stealing games from US players every single week. Mistake 2. Reacting instead of anticipating. By mid-season, Miles Reed had the same issue every coach in America complains about. He was reacting instead of anticipating. Every snap felt like a chase scene. He'd explode off the line a half-second too late, break his routes a step behind the coverage shift, and constantly find himself responding to what the defense had already decided. To the untrained eye, he still looked sharp, but anyone who studied the game could see it. Miles wasn't dictating the game anymore. He was chasing it. In football, reaction is survival, but anticipation is control. The great ones, from high school standouts to NFL pros, don't wait to see what's happening. They feel it coming. They recognize the subtle cues. The linebacker leaning forward before the blitz, the safety creeping a yard closer to the box, the corner's eyes locking on the quarterback instead of the receiver. These details happen in milliseconds, and yet, they're the difference between making a play and missing it. Miles never learned to read those cues. He treated every play like a blank slate, relying only on instinct. But as the pace of US high school and college football accelerates, faster offenses, disguised coverage, no-huddle tempo, anticipation has quietly become the new speed. You can't rely on raw pace anymore. You've got to read rhythm, predict motion, and act before the defense finishes thinking. Think about it. The best receivers don't just run routes, they set up defenders. Quarterbacks with real football IQ don't throw where the receiver is, they throw where he will be. And defensive captains? They move their units like chess masters, knowing exactly what's about to unfold 3 moves ahead. When you're always reacting, Miles realized one late game under the Friday night lights, you're playing someone else's game. And that's the trap so many American players fall into. They're moving fast, but they're not thinking fast. Anticipation starts in film study, builds through repetition, and becomes instinct only when you start connecting patterns. When you stop waiting to see the play and start feeling the play before it unfolds, you stop being a passenger and start driving the game. Here's a question for you. What's one play you wish you could replay with better awareness? Maybe that missed catch, that blown tackle, or that split-second read you got wrong. Share it in the comments. That reflection is how football IQ begins to sharpen. Because the next mistake Miles made wasn't about skill or awareness, it was about ego. And that one? It destroys teamwork quietly, from the inside out. Mistake 3. Ignoring the quiet roles that win games. By his senior year, Miles Reed had developed a reputation: highlight machine, deep ball threat, crowd favorite. Every Friday night, the local fans came to see him light up the scoreboard. Cameras followed him, reporters quoted him, and even opposing players whispered his name in pre-game huddles. But while Miles was chasing the spotlight, something deeper and far more powerful was slipping past him. The quiet roles that actually win football games. You see, American football culture has created a dangerous illusion. Every social media clip, every ESPN reel, every high school hype video, they all celebrate the flash. The one-handed catches, the ankle-breaking jukes, the big hits. But here's the truth coaches rarely say out loud. Those moments don't win championships. Communication, timing, and trust do. Miles never noticed how his team's unsung heroes made him look good. The center who adjusted the protection without being asked. The slot receiver who ran a clearing route just to free Miles for his highlight play. The safety who shouted the coverage shift that stopped a touchdown. None of those moments went viral. But without them, his star plays would have collapsed before they began. Football IQ isn't just about reading the field, it's about feeling the team. The smartest players are often the quietest ones. The linebacker who calls out a screen before it happens. The lineman who takes the double team so someone else can make the sack. The wideout who blocks instead of demanding the ball. That's not weakness, that's awareness. It's the difference between chasing fame and chasing wins. And that's where Miles went wrong. His hunger for recognition blinded him to the truth. The quiet player who makes others look good is the heartbeat of every great team. When he finally started watching film differently, he noticed something humbling. Every great play he ever made depended on someone else doing the little things right. In today's US football culture, where social media glorifies personal stats over collective success, real football IQ is knowing your impact even when nobody's clapping. The guys who talk less, think more, and play for the group, they're the ones recruiters now call program changers. So here's your challenge. Tag that underrated teammate who does the dirty work, who never gets the credit but always earns the respect. Let them know they're seen. Because their kind of intelligence doesn't trend, it wins. And speaking of wins, the next mistake Miles made nearly cost his team a season. It's the one error that turns even the most talented squads into chaos in the final minutes. And it's more common than you think. Mistake 4. Misreading the clock and game flow. It was the biggest game of Miles Reed's senior season. Rivalry night, packed bleachers, a roaring crowd, and a scout from a Division I school watching from the stands. His team was up by 3 points with less than 2 minutes to go. All they had to do was manage the clock. But adrenaline took over. On second down, Miles waved off the check-down route, demanded the deep ball, and sprinted downfield. The quarterback, under pressure, trusted his star. One mistimed throw. One unnecessary risk. Interception. Game over. In that moment, Miles didn't just lose a game, he lost control of time. This is one of the quiet killers in American football. Misreading the rhythm of the game. Every level, from Friday Night Lights to Sunday NFL primetime, is littered with stories of players who couldn't manage the moment. Not because they lacked skill, but because they didn't understand tempo. Smart players sense when to press, when to pause, and when to protect the clock like gold. The best quarterbacks in the US, Mahomes, Burrow, even Brady before them, are masters of game flow. They don't let the scoreboard dictate their composure. They read energy, momentum, and urgency. Sometimes, the smartest play isn't the flashiest. It's sliding down to keep the clock running, or taking a short gain instead of forcing a highlight that turns into heartbreak. But Miles wasn't thinking like that. His heart was racing faster than the play clock. His ego whispered, "End the game with a statement." And that's the trap too many young American players fall into, mistaking emotion for momentum. Here's the truth. Physical fatigue doesn't lose games nearly as often as mental panic does. A single rushed snap, a bad timeout, or a missed spike can undo 59 minutes of domination. Coaches preach discipline, but football IQ demands more. It demands situational awareness. Every second you waste is a chance you'll never get back. The clock isn't just a countdown, it's a mirror. It shows whether you're thinking clearly or letting pressure own you. So, have you ever seen a game lost because of poor clock management? Maybe a botched timeout or a player stepping out when they shouldn't have? Drop it in the comments. We've all watched heartbreak happen 1 second too soon. Because for Miles, that loss taught him something brutal but necessary. Your football IQ doesn't just live in your head, it shows up in how you handle time. And speaking of time, mistake number 5 doesn't happen under the Friday night lights. It starts long before kickoff, in the habits that shape how you think, train, and prepare every single day. Mistake 5. Ignoring mental fatigue and off-field IQ. After that crushing loss, Miles Reed made a silent promise to himself, never again. He doubled down on everything. Longer workouts, more film study, late-night highlight breakdowns on YouTube. He followed pro players on social media, tried copying their routines, their diets, their grind. On paper, it looked like obsession, and for a while, it worked. But beneath the surface, his body was exhausted, his focus started slipping, and his joy for the game began to fade. By mid-season, Miles wasn't physically outmatched, he was mentally burned out. Missed reads, sloppy routes, mental errors. His coaches noticed it before he did. His brain was running on fumes. Here's the truth that too many US players ignore. Recovery is part of football IQ. The brain is like muscle. It needs rest to adapt, grow, and remember. You can't process complex defenses or remember play sequences if you're functioning on 4 hours of sleep and caffeine. Yet in American football culture, the grind mindset has become a badge of honor. The message is everywhere. No days off, outwork everyone, sleep later. But that mentality doesn't build greatness, it builds burnout. The best players in the country, from college programs to the NFL, are rewriting the definition of discipline. They're not just training harder, they're training smarter. They schedule recovery days like practice sessions. They meditate. They journal after games. They talk to sports psychologists. Because they've learned something the highlight chasers haven't. Your body can't execute what your mind can't recall. Miles learned this lesson the hard way one night, sitting alone in the locker room after another poor performance. His mind was foggy, his confidence gone. And that's when his coach said something that stuck forever. You're not losing games on the field anymore, Miles. You're losing them in your head. That line flipped a switch. He started taking rest seriously. Instead of scrolling endlessly through comparison posts or grinding until sunrise, he began respecting mental reset as a weapon, not a weakness. And within weeks, his sharpness returned. He could anticipate again, communicate better, and see the game more clearly. In a country that worships hustle, this is the hardest truth for American players to accept. The smartest athletes win by slowing down. So, how do you mentally reset between games? Do you unplug, meditate, or spend time with family to recharge? Let's talk about it in the comments, because mastering your mind is how you master the game. And as for Miles, his next realization would change everything. It's the truth that separates average players from leaders. And once he saw it, he never played football the same way again. Something clicked for Miles Reed the day he stopped chasing perfection and started chasing understanding. Film sessions used to be punishment. Endless hours memorizing routes, defenses, and formations. But now, he watched with purpose. He wasn't trying to remember plays, he was trying to recognize patterns. He studied body language, pre-snap tendencies, and how momentum shifted in small, invisible ways. Football stopped looking like chaos and started to look like chess. In practice, he slowed everything down. Instead of sprinting mindlessly through drills, he'd focus on timing, spacing, and communication. He started talking more, asking teammates what they saw, what they felt, how they read certain plays. His awareness expanded from just his role to the whole team rhythm. Off the field, Miles changed too. He stopped sacrificing sleep for film marathons. He started journaling his thoughts after games, not just stats, but decisions, emotions, and lessons learned. That mental discipline translated into calm on the field. His confidence wasn't just louder, it was deeper. And that's when everything shifted. His stats improved, sure, but more importantly, his leadership did. Teammates began listening to him, trusting him. Coaches stopped coaching him hard and started relying on him strategically. Because the truth is simple, football didn't change, Miles did. The same game, the same ball, the same field, but a completely different player. His edge wasn't in his legs or lungs anymore. It was in his mind. Football IQ isn't built in the gym. It's built in your mindset. The smarter you think, the stronger you play. If Miles's journey hit home, then this is your moment to reflect, not as a fan, but as a player of the game. Because here's the truth. Talent fades, speed slows, and the spotlight moves on. But football intelligence, that only gets sharper with time. It's what separates the ones who play for stats from the ones who play for legacy. Miles didn't become unstoppable because he found a new workout or a viral drill. He transformed because he started thinking differently. And that same shift is waiting for every US player watching right now, from the high school field to the college combine. The next level isn't just about who can jump higher or run faster. It's about who can see the game before it happens. That's what recruiters, coaches, and champions all recognize instantly. Football IQ wins when everything else fails. So here's your challenge. If you're ready to raise your own football IQ, start by engaging right here. Hit that like button if something in Miles's story woke something up in you. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway, maybe the mistake you've been making without realizing it, or the mindset shift you're committing to today. And most importantly, share this video with a teammate who needs to hear it. Because every great team starts with one player who decides to think differently. And before you go, don't just scroll past. Subscribe to Football Mindset IQ. This is where America's next generation of players learns to think the game, not just play it. Because every championship begins in the mind, and your transformation starts the moment you decide to own it.